Game Design Zen, episode 20.
Welcome back to Game Design Zen. I, of course, am Curtis Murphy, and this is the intersection of games, life, and the pursuit of excellence. Maybe you're just starting out in this crazy business, or maybe you have the wisdom that comes from weathering all those storms. Either way, we can all learn more about the art, the science, and the business, so we can level up to Zen.
And then today, I actually finished writing my paper about the same topic. Here it is. I don't know if that comes through. Probably not. The paper is called Flow Space, and I have all of my cute diagrams in there that have to do with flow, and I have my cute diagrams in there that have to do with simplicity, and my final diagram on flow space. And this is a new idea that I invented. And my hope is that it makes a difference, similar to the paper that I did in 2011 about why games work. And what does that have to do with anything? What it has to do is with a question that I got just the other day, which reminded me of a question that I got from my boss. This is going back maybe, 5 years. So I come into his office and I'm talking to him about some project that I'm working on, and then I'm starting to tell him about some of the work that I'm doing with Gigi, or the side projects, or these apps that I'm building, and he just gets this funny look in his eye. And then I stop and I'm like, what? And he's like, how do you get all this stuff done? Like, you're working, you got a family, you have kids, your daughter is ill, and you got yourself, and still you're doing all these other things. How do you get all that stuff done? Which brings us all the way forward to a question that my friend asked just the other day when we were hanging out in Salt Lake City. And I was telling him, well, I had played this game, and I had played some of this game and some of that game, and he got that same exact funny look in his eye that my boss had gotten years ago. He said, how do you have time for all these games? Because his assumption was that since I'm podcasting and I'm making videos and I'm writing papers and I'm running my own company, all on top of having a family, being married, and working a full-time job in the day, that's my living, that clearly I didn't have time to play games at all. And I think at the time, for both of them, I really didn't know how to answer their question. I don't know. So then I spent some time thinking about it. How do I get stuff done? An even more important question for you is, how do we get stuff done? Not me. How do we get stuff done? And that is a really, really cool question that I spent a lot of time thinking about. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I came home today and I was excited that I had gotten something else done. So here we go. Topic 1 is focus. And it's sort of a weird topic because I remember reading this book. I think I have it over there on my shelf, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And you've probably heard of it. It's been around for a long time, and they have a lot of spin-offs and highly effective teens and all this kind of stuff. It's a really great book. I got a lot out of it when I read it, and it meant a lot to me, and I tried to put some of those principles into practice. One of the principles in the book is, I'm going to try to phrase this correctly, I may have it wrong, start with the end in mind. And this is Stephen Covey's, one of his 7 principles that he ascribes to highly successful people. And I've thought about that a lot over the years since I've read that. And to be honest, that is not what I do. I really don't start with the end in mind. Not really. So what do I do? Well, I start instead with a general direction on where I'm going. That's kind of one of the things that I do is I start with a general direction with where I'm going. I don't start with the end in mind. And I kind of think that a lot of people don't. I mean, I think about my wife, and think about my son, and think about the friends that I know. Mike, if you're listening, I don't know that you guys all sit down and say, oh, this is where I'm going to be exactly in 2 years, and this is how I'm going to get there, and I'm going to lay out my 12-point plan, and you're going to vote for me. No, it's not an election. I don't think that's exactly how we do it. So maybe I misunderstand what he's after in the book. Maybe I need to reread it again, or maybe it just doesn't work out as well as I might like to think that it works. So that brings us back to topic 1. I don't start with the end in mind. Not exactly. What I do is focus. I focus. Well, what does that mean exactly? Focus. Everybody, focus, focus, focus. What does that mean? I'm going to make it really practical. This is what I do. The first thing that I do when I think about focus is my workspace. So I'm going to be honest. I have ADD. I get distracted very easily. I also have hyperfocus when I'm gaming and doing other things. And then I can get very easily distracted by television, by noises, by all of these kinds of things. I have a lot of difficulty working when other people are around me. So how do I get things done? Well, look at this room. There isn't anybody else around me. And when I'm working, I'm not using my phone, right? I'm not inserting distractions or allowing distractions to come into my workspace. If I want to have deep thoughts, if I want to produce a new body of work that nobody has produced before, not just something additional, not just more of the same or another game, this is a new body of work. This is a new idea that nobody has ever come up with. That to me is a deep thought. And deep thoughts don't come when I'm texting or streaming or half listening to stuff. No, deep thoughts come from focus. I tune out stuff. I ignore emails. I ignore emails that I probably shouldn't. And they just sit there and I'm like, I should probably do something. And instead, I focus on what I'm doing. So let's go to topic 2. On how I get things done. Because topic 2 is a little bit different, and yet it sort of sounds the same. So topic 2 is the quality of work, which kind of sounds like focus, right? Focus on your stuff, make sure your quality is really good. And yet, that's not what I'm after here. The idea that I'm after with quality of work is all work is not the same. All work is work, and it's probably all important, and it's probably all valid, and it's probably all good things that we can spend our time on. And all work is not the same. So, a couple of weeks ago, you saw the episode where I learned to do video podcasts, where I learned how to do what I'm doing right here, right now. That was a whole new thing for me, and it required getting a video, it required doing different techniques with my audio systems, learning tools, and all sorts of things. Now, to make all of that happen, I had to learn a whole bunch of new techniques. I had to do research. Well, what kind of cam should I buy? How should I be using my mic? What kind of software should I be using for post-processing? How do I do this and how do I do that? Research, 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 research. Well, what do you think about that research? It's a really good question, isn't it? Because without doing that research, I wouldn't have produced those podcasts. I wouldn't have made the video podcast that you're looking at right now. I couldn't be where I am today without doing that research. And at the same time, it begs the question, is that research the same kind of work? Because I don't think that it is. I think it was important. I think I had to learn how to do it. And at the same time, I don't think that it's the same kind of work that I'm doing right now when I'm actually producing a podcast. It's not the same. It's not the same quality, and it's not as important as actually doing the work that gets the real work done. So I'm going to throw out there a little bit, maybe controversial, that research is not work. It's important. We need it. And it's not work. And I'm going to take that a step further. I'm going to say that there are lots of things that we do in our life, in our jobs, and in our experiences, whether we're indie or professional or both, that is not really the same quality of work. I will give you another example. I moderate the game design forum on Unity. Is that work? I think it is work. Sometimes it's fun. A lot of times I have to remind myself to do it and go check stuff and make sure I'm following up on things. So I would say, yeah, that's work. It's kind of an important networking social component of work. Is it the same kind of work? I don't think so. I do not think that that's the same kind of work. So not all work is work. I'm going to extend that even further. Because clearly researching, okay, you get that. Clearly writing on forums might not be the same kind of work. I'm going to push that one step further, going back to the argument that Jonathan Blow made in a few podcasts ago. If not all work is work, then are there sometimes some things that we're doing that we think is really important, and maybe it's not the same quality of work that gets things done? I want to be real specific, and I'm going to pick on the developers right now because I'm a developer. I'm going to zoom in. So let's say I'm sitting here and I'm building a new game. Let's say, I don't know, I'm working on Tap Happy, right? I've got my huge list and I'm going through and I'm working on Tap Happy. And I decide that in the middle of doing that, you know what? It would be really cool if I had a system for managing all the upgrades. Okay. Now that's a really gray question. You know where I'm going to go with this. Is a system of things that I'm building in the software, is that real work? Maybe. So in Tap Happy, I have, I don't know, there's like 50 different upgrade paths that they can do. Some of them are purchases and some of them are things that they get automatically and some of them they use gems to do. Are they all? Could I have implemented that without creating a system for upgrades? I suspect that I could. Maybe I just have one base class for an upgrade and all the other things extend off of that and I just start going to town. Or I can make a really complex hierarchy of upgrades and this whole system to manage them and do all kinds of clever, interesting stuff with them from a data structure, from a coding perspective. The question, though, is does that get me closer to where I'm trying to be? And I think the answer is maybe. I think the answer is maybe. And you have to answer that question for yourself. The topic, the takeaway, though, is that not all the work that we do is the same level of quality. Now I want to get very silly and also kind of personal. So if we're talking about quality of work, here's a very specific example. Watch this. You should be seeing that my face is getting brighter. And what that means is that I forgot to turn on this extra light right here. So the question now is that the lighting in the video for the first section is wrong. What to do about that? What would you do about that? Because there's a couple of answers. The first answer is I'm going to go back and re-record it because the lighting's not right. I want it to be just right, and I really want this to be done well, so I'm going to back and re-record this. That's a reasonable answer. Another answer, if you're very technical with the art tools, I haven't learned quite how to do this, I probably could figure it out, is to say, well, I could go back in post-production and I could touch up the light. Maybe change it, maybe put a filter on it that tints it a little different or something like that. That's a reasonably good answer, right? The third option that I see is to do absolutely nothing. Which option is right? Re-record it, post-process, or nothing? Well, I don't know that there's a right answer. What I can say, though, is to look at this from the perspective of somebody who gets something done. Well, which of those is actually going to help me get more things done? So the question is the lighting so bad in the first section that it requires throwing it away completely and re-recording it? I suspect not. I'm going to have to go check it. Of course, I can't see it right now because I'm in the middle of recording. I suspect, though, that it wasn't awful. Do I need to spend time then touching it up? And I think the next answer to that is, well, not all work is the same kind of work. Maybe I could, and maybe I don't. That leads me to the third option. So I'm inclined right now to make a snap decision that says I'm not going to re-record it and I'm not going to touch it up. Solely for the benefit, for me, of getting things done. That seems to me like focusing on the high quality of work, which is getting my message out, getting my podcast out, working on a game, completing a new product, getting out a new paper. And that's really difficult to think about. Because if you asked me, am I sort of OCD about my work? When I worked on this paper right here, did I edit it like 50 billion times? Yeah, I did. I OCD'd the heck out of that. Well, how come I'm not OCD about this? And that to me is a key distinction that exactly gets at the heart of how do we get things done. Because not all OCD is equally valid. OCDing over optimization in my code and the performance of a certain part of my thing because I can make it better and I know that it can perform better. I know I can allocate less memory and I'm really being sloppy. That is not the same quality of work as OCDing, obsessing, sorry for using jargon, being obsessive compulsive disorder, OCDing over the user interface, making sure that everything is juicy and it's reactive and it gives the best experience for my player. One of these things is hugely important and the other one is questionable. And that is exactly the difference that I'm talking about when I talk about quality of work. Not all the work is the same. Some things seem equally important, and yet, just like the silly example of the light, they're not. They're not. Because I do have a family, and I did watch the Super Bowl, and I do plan later to go and even catch up on some LOL tournament games, and I would also like to play more of The Witness, and I did want to finish my paper, and I have to go to work tomorrow, and I do have to sleep. And that means that I should focus topic one, focus my efforts on the highest quality of work possible. And when I say that quality, I think now you're getting, I don't mean doing the OCD things and making the work high quality. I mean focus on the work that itself, the work that you're doing is the highest possible quality. And that, to me, is a key topic of how to get things done, to get more things done, to try, improve, and repeat. Put the content out, even if it's crap, because then I can move on and make more content rather than obsessing over the little details and the optimization and the performance over stuff that probably doesn't matter. Topic 3. Topic 3 takes me all the way back to college. Because I remember, I don't know, it was maybe a sophomore, second year. I was living in a little apartment I don't know if I was married yet then. We were pretty serious at that point. And it was summer. So I'm in Blacksburg. I'm going to Virginia Tech. And boom, summer hits. Well, that particular summer, I didn't take any summer school classes. I just decided that I would work. And the best kind of work that I could find was this little internship at a local company doing software development. This is ages ago. We're talking about Windows 3.1, maybe even before that. I don't even remember. Very, very old, long time ago. What I distinctly remember, though, is that when I came home at night, my wife and I got off of our internships and we came home back to our apartment. And you know what? There was this weird feeling as I looked around. Because all through college, I had this sense that I should always be doing something. Like, if I went out to dinner with friends, there was this low-level stress in the back of my head that said, hey, you should probably be, I don't know, working on that project that's due next week, or maybe studying for that test, or shouldn't you be doing some homework or something like that? There was always something, always this low-level agitation of stress in the back of my head that really irked at me. I was not particularly a great student. That feeling, though, was always there, and I always felt guilty when I wasn't. I didn't, and yet I always felt it. Until that summer when I came home and I realized this is it. I come home from my job and I have all the time in the world that I want. Whoa, this is so cool. And my wife and I did a lot of things, and we played lots of games, and we went for hikes, and we did all kinds of things. Now, how is that relevant? Is really interesting. Because now I think about today. Now I think about where I am right now and what I do, and I would say that it's different. And I think the key difference is the heart of topic 3, and that is one word: habits. So you probably remember me talking about habits before, and if you've seen any of my apps, then you've definitely heard me talk about habits before. Habits are this funny thing that kind of drives most of what we do in life. This is so weird. We think we're making all these decisions all the time, and in fact, we're not. 90% of what we do is on autopilot. And the way that works is there's this little cycle. We see a cue, there's some cue in the world, and that triggers some behavior. And then we do that behavior because we expect some sort of reward. And the reward is not necessarily like money or even food. It's just a response. Like when you brush your teeth, the reward is that you're minty fresh breath, right? That's a cue behavior reward. I get up in the morning before I go to work. Oh, I need to brush my teeth before I walk out the door. And now I have this minty fresh feeling before I go outside. That's a cue behavior reward cycle. Okay, bear with me. That's kind of the definition of habits. That's how it works. And what's really, really powerful about habits is that for the most part, we don't have to force ourselves to do anything that's driven by a habit. And I will give you a specific example. Today, I'm driving home, I'm in my car, and I'm actually listening to a podcast. I'm totally in tune to what I'm listening to, and I'm driving down the interstate, and I get to this spot where I come up over the ridge and I see the water on the right side. It's the same spot I drive over every day, and yet that exact spot is a cue that I've programmed in my head. So a cue triggers, and I go, oh yeah, this is the moment where I'm supposed to pause briefly to be grateful for all the things that are going right. Well, today that was, I did a paper, we had the Super Bowl party last night, on and on and on, right? So there was a cue. I didn't have to make an effort. Literally, I'm driving my car, I get to that spot, that's a cue. It triggers the behavior, which is take 30 seconds or 2 minutes to think about what went well, and then the reward is that I feel a little bit happier about myself and my life from having a bit of gratitude. Keep with me, because this applies all the way back to how do we get things done, because that's the key. How do we get things done? So for me, how I get things done is that I build habits. Habits that I don't even necessarily have to think about. Habits that can just be worked in and directly integrated into what I'm doing with very, very minimal effort on my part. And I'll give you some very simple examples. These, I don't know if they're going to show up. These are task lists for the different products that I've made. So these are lists of things, and if you can see them, I don't know if it focuses. You can see checks and X's. Some of these are double pages. This is a habit. That is one of the habits that I have when I build a product. And the way that it works for me is that I will sit down and say, okay, I'm building Tap Happy. Now, Tap Happy was a bigger project. Let's start with something smaller. Christmas Crush. So Christmas Crush was a doofy little app that I wanted to build, and I sat down and I said, okay, here's my design. Then, the second that I had some basic design written down, I started making lists. Lists of little tasks that I needed to do in order to get the job done. And I don't have all the tasks right up front. I just start making a list. Get the first version working. Get the first object that can explode. In the game, you can pop little ornaments, and then the red ones appear. Don't pop that one, you lose. That's the whole game. It's really simple. And I sit down and I start writing out these tasks, and I make these very detailed lists. And every time I have a neat idea, the good idea fairy, we all know the good idea fairy, right? That's like, hey, this is a great idea. Wouldn't it be great if? Write it down. Leave it there. And probably the next day, I come back and I exit off. Because the good idea fairy is not living up to topic 2, which is high quality of work. That's the good idea fairy. And that good idea fairy is going to get in my way. And yet my brain will not let me forget the good idea. It won't leave it alone. Your brain may be that way too. You get this idea in your head and you're just like, I have to do it. So what you do, the way I address that is I have a habit. I write it down. I put it on my list, acknowledging to my brain, hey, good idea, fairy. Well done. That's a nice idea. Let's just put it on there. And maybe I don't exit out. Maybe I leave it there for a few days. And then later I come back and I write down low priority. It's still there, brain. Don't worry about it. We didn't cancel out your good idea. It's still there for the future. And then I get back to work on the really, really high priority items. Getting it to run, getting it to compile, getting the first mission, getting the second level, getting the upgrade, getting the sound effects, right? All the things that are making the product come together. And I keep doing that. And as I come up with ideas, I come up with work and stuff, I just start writing down a list and I check. And I just keep going. And then, sure enough, I end up with a product. Maybe. Because there's something missing in that approach. There's something missing in that approach, and the important thing that's missing in that approach is another habit that I have. And that habit is the idea of a deadline. Now, I know you've heard me talk about deadlines because it's always my wife that throws those gauntlets, right? You could have X episodes by Christmas. You could have this product out in 6 weeks. Deadline. You should have that thing ported over to Steam by Valentine's Day. The reason that she does those deadlines is exactly because she knows that I need them. She knows exactly that I need that. It is part of my habit. So I have a habit for deadlines, which is I will doodle all day long. I will come up with game ideas for word games, for role-playing games, for MMOs, whatever my brain wants to come up with. I'll come up with new papers and I'll just start doodling and I'll design out a whole thing that I think this is a fully functioning game. I could probably implement this. And I don't implement it. I don't jump in right away. When I'm ready to sit down and actually start doing it, I will do one of two things. The first is I'll start with a prototype concept to see if it's worthwhile. I'll spend 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days. That's a deadline. You see the habit that I built there? Even in my prototype, I can't think about a prototype unless I'm thinking about it in terms of how long am I willing to commit to this? It's a cue behavior reward. Then when I sit down to build my real product, I pick a deadline also. I got to have this port done by Valentine's Day. I got to have this app. I'm only willing to commit 2 weeks to Christmas Crush. And that's all it took me. Remember, spare time, doodling around, got my list of Christmas Crush, make my things, get it done, code it up, get the art, get the stuff, create whatever I need to get it in. Good idea, Fairy. No. Quality of work. Deadline. Yes. And that's a habit. It's a very advanced habit. And the cue behavior reward is whenever I think to start on a new product, I need to think, well, what's my deadline? That's my behavior. And the reward is I know now that I'm constrained. Constraint is the motherhood of genius. It's such a weird concept that we think that people perform their most creative work when they just have unlimited constraints. And if you Google the word constraint, you will find that most artists eventually get to the point where they will say something just like what I've said. Constraint is the motherhood of genius, and we work best when we are bounded within constraints. And a deadline is a habit that does that for me. Okay, here's one more habit that I do. And this one seems antithetical. It seems contrary to the idea of what people do to get things done. So you remember back when I said that when I was in college, I always had this low level of stress. There was always in my head this niggling feeling that I should be doing something. And that niggling feeling actually was harming me. It was preventing me from thinking clearly and openly about the ideas because I was always like agitated about it. I was like fighting it. I don't want to. You can't tell me. I'm not going to do that. Oh, you're supposed to do the paper. I don't want to do the paper. I'll do it tomorrow. Right now I'm watching Star Trek. Boom. Okay? That's in the back of my head. Well, now I'm working a day job, and I'm raising a family, and I'm building stuff on the side, and I'm building podcasts, and I'm doing workshops, and I'm writing papers. I'm doing all of these different things. The danger there is that it puts my mind in this frame where I'm always feeling guilty. I should be working on this. Well, right now I want to play League of Legends. No, you shouldn't do that right now. Right now you should be working on that paper. I would really rather play The Witness tonight. No. You need to get in there and record and be thinking about making a new podcast. I don't want to do that. I would really like to play this game with my son. I want to play some Gauntlet. So that doesn't work for me. That is not a viable, sustainable model for me. No way can I do that. I can't ignore that. It gets too confusing and it makes life not fun. It makes it all feel like work, like something is putting this outside pressure on me rather than me coming in here and wanting to do something. So how do I deal with that? How do I set up the situation so that I can get things done, lots and lots of things done, things that are very meaningful to me without this constant nagging anxiety? The way that I do that is very simple. When I start a project, whatever that project is, I give myself a deadline, I work toward that deadline, and then I'm done. Whatever the product is, it could be a goofy little app game like Christmas Crush, or it could be a much longer game experience like Block 64, or a simple thing like porting to Steam, or even a video. Once I finish that product, I'm done. I'm done. I finish the product, I get it out, I set it aside, and then I take a break. And I do whatever I want. And I'm not talking about taking a break like, oh, I finished the product, so I'm going to go take a 15-minute break, or I wrote a chapter, so I'm going to go take an hour-long break. No, I take a break between season 1 and season 2, I just stopped. 15 episodes in the can, done. I had no commitment for when it was going to start. I didn't say when it was going to start. I didn't know when it was going to start. Boom, it was done. And then I just went on with my life, going about whatever else I wanted to do until the excitement hit me again, and I sat down and did some more. And then I wanted to learn about videos, and you know all that story, and boom, all my other habits kick in. I start making lists for how I'm going to get through stuff. I start working with deadlines and setting goals that I can work toward. And when they're finished, like this episode, when it's done, I will turn off the mic and I will go away. Because my habit for making a podcast is not to do the recording and then do all the work afterward to get it post-production and edit it. No, that's not my habit. My habit is I come in here with an idea that I've already written up the notes on, maybe the day before, maybe a week before, maybe hours before, or maybe just an idea that just came into my head on my way home from work. I do the episode, and then I'm done. I'm done for the night. I'm done until whenever I feel like it. There's no backlying anxiety. I just take a break. As long a break as I feel like it until I'm ready to be excited again. And that's only possible with the habit of having a deadline. Because otherwise the products are never done. They're never done. And it's always niggling at me. Instead, I'm done. I finish it up, I close it out, and boom, I'm done. And that all leads up to me to a really, really simple Zen moment. It's just ridiculously simple. So I already told you I have ADD. I wasn't particularly a great student. And here I am producing what I think is a really exciting set of content that's adding new and interesting things to the world. I'm having connections and meeting new people and getting to do all these really fun things for me that feel like a meaningful part and quality in my life. And I've done that by using some very, very simple tools. I focus. When I'm podcasting, I am podcasting. When I am building an app, I'm building an app. And when I'm writing a paper, I'm writing a paper, and I'm not doing email, and I'm not texting, and I'm not Twittering. When I'm Twittering, I will Twitter. When I'm Facebooking, I will do Facebook for an hour, and then I'm done. That's focus. The second is that I'm always aware of the quality of the work that I'm doing, not the quality of the product that I'm building, the quality of the work that I'm doing. Is the work research? Am I in a learning mode? Am I refactoring things? Am I adding fancy systems to things? Am I obsessed over this light, which probably doesn't matter? That's not the same quality of work. And then I build all kinds of simple, silly little habits, cue behavior rewards, so I don't have to willpower my way through something. I force myself first to figure out what these habits are. I put them in my life. I gave you a few of them that worked for me. I hope they work for you. And then I just put them to effect. I'm not a genius. I'm not even a crazy hard worker. I mean, my one friend asked me, how do you play all those games? Yes, I have played Heroes Charge on my iPhone every day for 365 days. So, yeah, I'm gaming. Yes, I play Words with Friends. Yes, I watch League of Legends. Yes, I watch the Super Bowl. And I have to clean my house. And I have to raise my kids and spend time with my family. And I went to Salt Lake City for 7 days or 5 days. And I have to go to work. Yes, I'm living a normal life. I'm not doing crazy amounts of hours in my work, neither at home nor in my day job. I just put simple techniques into practice, and that is how I get things done. Thank you for joining me at the intersection of games, life, and the pursuit of excellence. You know what to do. You know how to contact me. I'm having a blast with this, so I hope you reach out to me. And until next time, please do just like I'm doing and keep trying, improving, and repeating. Game Design Zen.